Can I help you, pal?
I don't know what to say.
Do you want an autograph or something?
No. My name is Arthur. Penny Fleck is my mother.
Jesus. You're the guy that came to my house yesterday.
Yes. I'm sorry, I just showed up. But my mother told me everything, and I had to talk to you.
Look, pal, I'm not your father. What's wrong with you?
Look at us. I think you are.
Well, that's impossible. Because you're adopted, and I never slept with your mother.
I wasn't
What do you
adopted.
want from me, money?
No, I wasn't adopted.
Jesus, she never told you?
Told me what?
Your mother adopted you while she was working for us.
That's not true. Why are you saying that?
And she was arrested and committed to Arkham State Hospital when you were just a little boy.
Why are you saying this? I don't need you to tell me lies. I know it seems strange. I don't mean to make you uncomfortable. I don't know why everyone is so rude. I don't know why you are. I don't want anything from you. Maybe a little bit of warmth. Maybe a hug, Dad. How about just a little bit of fucking decency? What is it with you people? You say that stuff to my mother?
She's crazy. You think this is funny?
Dad, it's me.
Touch my son again, I'll fucking kill you.
So thank you. Like, I appreciate your time here. How about your Houston Cougars basketball team?
Oh, don't get me started. I'm so proud of them, but at the same time disappointed they only made it to this. I always thought they were going to make it to the Final Four.
Yeah, 32 and 5 is pretty impressive. 32 and 5 is pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, I love the Houston. I mean, that's those go Cougs, baby. You know,
yeah,
that's my team.
17 and 0 at home. Hey, I wanted to say, I saw some of your social media, especially your Instagram. You're very proud of your daughter. So I had my daughter at 47 3 years ago. I had a son a year ago, a little late. I got a late jump on it. What has fatherhood taught you, Brett? And any of those pearls of wisdom, can you share them with me?
I'll tell you one thing that I learned, and it's been a great asset in my relationship with my daughter is, and interesting, I'm not really on social media. My wife runs that.
Gotcha. But I see that you're very proud of your daughter.
I'm very proud of her.
Yeah.
When she was very young, I told her something, and two things. I live in Venice Beach, and I moved here for a reason because it was very diverse. And her two best friends were Hispanic and Black, or African American. And one day she came home and said, "Daddy, Lily's skin's a different color than mine." And I said, "No, it's not." She goes, "Yes, it is." And I said, "No, it's just a different tint based on the heritage of, the genetic pool of her family and where they're from." And I said, "But if I were to cut your finger and cut Lily's finger, you would both bleed red." And that's what we see in this family is people. We don't see color.
Yeah.
And she learned that and accepted that. And it was a beautiful thing. She was very young at the time. And then the other thing I told her when she was very young was, and you should learn this, that whatever she did, she did something wrong or got in trouble or did something she knew was bad, that if I found out about it, the punishment would be fully all there. But if she told me about it, it would be about half.
Right.
So she was always honest with us until she got older.
Yep.
In high school, she started doing stuff she wasn't supposed to. And, I'm really proud of her. She's now been sober for 8 years, and is an incredible writer, actress, director, and is just a really special girl.
It sounds like an amazing person.
Yeah, she's one of my favorite people.
Well, that's awesome. I had a couple questions before we head into this long game, which I absolutely loved. Let me ask you this. So you get this unique opportunity in Joker, right? Like an opportunity that comes, there's an Alec Baldwin, there's not. But not only do you take advantage of this situation, you have so many iconic moments in this instant classic. So the way you got the job is great. and then the way you took it and just ran with it makes it equally as impressive, Brett, right?
Well, it was an interesting scenario because I was doing True Detective for HBO at the time, and I self-taped for Todd. And I think this is what he told me happened, because I had to go to New York for costume fittings and hair and makeup and whatnot. And he said, Todd wants you to come to set. They were shooting in the bank, which actually got cut out of the movie. But he told me the story, which was I had this audition. I had to fly to Arkansas to start back on True Detective, and I had to change the time. I had to be there. My flight was like at 1:30, and I had to. He wanted to see me like at 11. I said, I can't do that. And he said, I can be there at 10. My wife will take me and drive me straight to the airport from the interview. And after he saw my self-tape, and we met, and I read for him again, and it was very positive, seemed like it was going to go forward. And then I read in the news, or I guess my manager said, Alec Baldwin was cast as Thomas Wayne. And from what I understand, someone at what is it called? I don't even follow that stuff, the entertainment news. That
Gotcha, yeah.
He was going to play Thomas Wayne like Trump. And he said, I won't do that, and bailed on the movie. And then Todd said, look, I wanted you, but because it's a studio film, they went, oh, we got Alec Baldwin. Great. Let's go with him. And after he passed, he called the casting director. He said, make a deal with Brett. That's what I wanted in the first place. So that's how it ended up happening. And it was an interesting thing that happened on the set was, Joaquin is a wonderful, wonderful guy. And when in the morning in the makeup trailer, we would chat, or at the end of the day, he'd say, thank you for today. And, it was very lovely. But when he put on Arthur's clothes, he didn't speak to anybody except the director or the other actors he was working with. And it was really, really, really great, really intense. It was an intense movie to make because it was a movie more about mental illness and guns, and about a man, Thomas Wayne, who hides, what he's done. I mean, we played that Arthur was his illegitimate son.
Right.
And so it was really incredible to work with him. But I didn't get to know him that well until after the movie. And he came running up to me and was hugging me and going, oh my God, Brad. Todd said, he really likes you. So funnily enough, I was just in New Mexico. I'm shooting a new show for Netflix, and I was with Kate Burton, Richard Burton's daughter, and we were having dinner. And then she was tired, and I said, you go to bed. I'm going to drive back to my hotel. And the next morning, texted me, and she said, do you realize that Joaquin was sitting right behind us? I didn't even know. Wow. He's very quiet, very to himself, but it was an amazing experience, and one that I had to turn, because of his intensity, I had to turn to Todd, and I said, I can't. I'm Thomas Wayne. I'm one of the richest men in the world, in Gotham. And I'm, and he goes, do that. Don't take any shit. Not shit, but, don't get intimidated. And I didn't. I just jumped in. It was the same thing I did years ago. And I worked with my idol, Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
Brett, I couldn't. I had to just be the character and just go in there and go balls out and not be intimidated.
Yeah, Brett, just to follow that up, I have to believe it's so hard, even when the cameras are off, to carry the burden of the Joker like Joaquin did. Like, you have to, that is such a perplexing character. Like, I feel like it's hard, but I wanted to say to you before I hopped into this wonderful movie, The Long Game, is it hard? How do you find the median of Thomas Wayne? Because you play a very different Thomas Wayne, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want him to be a complete asshole, but you also don't want him to be super likable. Like, I felt you found like such a unique place to play him. It's my favorite Thomas Wayne because it's one I've never seen before. Like, I'm like, wow, that works. That's great.
I mean, if you really look at that film was, based off of a comic book, but we put it in reality. It's a lot like Chris Nolan did with Batman, Dark Knight Rises. And when I worked with him, it was the same thing. It was like, so if you take a look at Thomas Wayne, who's one of the wealthiest men in Gotham and a very powerful man. Powerful men can be nice people, but they can also be ruthless.
Right.
And they have to be in order to stay on top. And to me, that's sort of was the key to him. The fact that he loved his family, he didn't want to embarrass them, which is why he did what he did with Arthur. And And to me, it's like there aren't any black and whites in that world. It's all a lot of gray,
Right.
and you have to touch on that. And you can be the most charming person in the world, but you can turn around and be a really ruthless person at the same time.
Right. Well said. Speaking of your character in The Long Game, I love the scene with the golf bags in the bed. I mean, there's a lot of great scenes, but I wanted to say, I live in Massachusetts, and I have this we have this rinky dink private club where every member thinks he's above every law. Every person's they're so arrogant. It's like once they step foot on that property, Brett, they become this different type of person, the very grandiose. It's like, whoa, calm down. Let's put things in perspective. Your character reminds me of those guys, those that kind of arrogant, kind of not really super likable. I don't know. You did a wonderful job at it, but I thought you really hit home what you wanted to get through.
Well, it's an interesting world we live in. I mean, country clubs are the elite, as it were, of the golf communities, and you have to have a lot of money to be a member, and you have to spend a lot of money every month on your monthly fees and blah blah blah. And I played Bel Air Country Club a lot. I played Riviera. I used to play Sherwood a ton until they put a letter out on me because I wasn't a member, and they said I couldn't play for the rest of the year. But I played LA Country Club, and there is a certain thing that goes along with that. I mean, but I think it's money driven as opposed to more than ego. It's like I'm rich, and and God bless them if they can afford to join. I'm way too middle class and too Irish to want to spend $180,000 or $200,000 to join a golf club. If I was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, I might do it. But I played yesterday at a little Muni here in Venice Beach, where I live. So. Yeah. 9-hole course, and me and my friends, I mean, one of them's been nominated for 4 Oscars for production design, and it's just kind of hanging out with my buddies is what golf to me is about. But I'm a pretty good golfer. Julio said something great in one of the interviews the other day when I missed you, was that he said one of the hardest things for Brett to do is to play badly. And,
that's a compliment.
Because I'm an 8 index.
Wow.
And I don't play to it all the time. I used to be a 6, but I've got some issues with my eyes. Yeah. So my iron play suffered and my short game suffered because that was my money. I mean, I used to play with Dennis all the time at Bel Air, and he'd crush the ball. I'd hit a good drive, and then I'd get the ball up near the green. He'd be on the green on the far side, and I'd chip up to about 8 inches and tap in, and he'd 3-putt, and I'd win the hole.
Wow.
My third game was tight.
Yeah, the great thing about The Long Game is even the book was a long shot. The book is self-published, right? So even the author is a long shot. These kids who had to deal, the mid-50s cannot be easy if you're Latino in any way. And the movie does a great job of I love sports movies as a vessel, Brett, of delivering a message, because I always feel like sports movies are underappreciated. You look at the classics like Caddyshack, it's like a 7.2 out of 10. That should be a 10, or Hoosiers is 7.4. People miss the boat, I think, with this. But I really feel like this movie's it's great at a sports level, but it's also great delivering this message of what these guys went through. And it reminds me a little bit of McFarland USA about these Latino cross-country runners that Kevin Costner coached.
Right.
I love the movie so much. It reminded me a little bit. It's its own entity for sure. Right. But I just loved what this movie is as far as sports and the messaging that it was really trying to not trying, but that came through.
Well, I think it's a great story. I mean, the challenge for those kids, there's not many of them had played golf, and Julio said Dennis and I were his technical advisors all the time because we were trying to teach people to swing and how to hit the ball and whatnot. But the other side of it is that, it's a wonderful, true story. It actually happened. And then what I kept saying is, the film is so full of heart, and the messages and I hope I'm not this won't be taken the wrong way. It's not just about Hispanic people being prejudiced against and being treated like secondhand citizens, right, even though they're Americans. It's more about all people of color. And to me, what I hope people see is they see the movie. I mean, I'm from Texas originally. I grew up. My father lived through the Great Depression, fought in World War II. I love my dad. He was a wonderful man, but he had a certain attitude because of how he was raised and the period of time in which he was raised. And we're kind of, in a weird way right now in our country, very divided and very divisive. And, it's all about party and not about being Americans and respecting each other and honoring each other and loving each other and trying to help one another. And the whole Christian thing, it's like, well, Jesus would not be happy with the Christian right now, because they're not treating people equally and they're not being loving. And that's what I hope the film that you get is that everyone should, that you'll take a look at yourself and say, do I judge people like that? Do I think of people in a way? And, even though I'm the bad guy in the movie, it was weird at the premiere the other night. Everyone's coming, well, I love your movies, man. You were such an asshole. And I'm like, well, yeah, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't see that perspective.
100%.
How these people were treated.
100%.
And Dennis and I, we grew up together, went to college together, and it was really fun to be working with him. And Julio's an amazing director and really open-minded and collaborative. And just to be a part of that was really important to me.
Yeah.
The silly thing is I've seen the movie twice. I saw it at South by Southwest, and then I saw it the other night at the premiere. I read the script. I shot it. I mean, I was there. And every time I see it, I just get choked up, choked up. And it's not just about, the message, but also about the idea that, if you work hard, regardless of your skin color, regardless of, what your status is in the world, that you can reach your dreams, and over the obstacles, and you can do it with honor.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
That's well said. I'm going to end with these two things. This is not your first. I mean, you've been in 4 or 5 movies. You mentioned, Gene earlier. You were in 42 with the great and wonderful Chadwick Boseman. 42 is another one of those movies, Brett. They're different. It's different than this, but in some ways the same, right? Like you try to put perspective on things. My God, like how can I look at this in a different way? So you've been down this road. You know what it takes to make a very good, solid movie that really hits home, Brett.
Right. Well, I was surprised. I'm going to be honest. I mean, it was, we shot in Bogota, Colombia. A friend of mine helped the company out and found the golf course we shot at, which I used to play all the time because I lived there for 2 years on Narcos. And my friend was the head of the narco terrorism division at the DEA, who I met in Bogota.
Your most underrated role, Brett, by the way, I have to say that. Your most underrated thing you've ever done. Yep.
And he, I had Julio call him, and he just asked for his country club because he's a member of the country club with the president, the vice president, the secretary of defense. All those guys are members of in Bogota. And they wanted a pile of money. And then he kind of dropped it. And I called him and I said, do you know who you were talking to? And he's like, what? I go, that's Dan. I won't say his name because I don't want to, but he works for the embassy. And now he has a fund where he helps the Colombian government stop the cartels and stop trafficking. And I said, this guy can pick up the phone and call the president. And he went, oh. And I said, call him back. And he found he got him the golf course that Dan and I used to play all the time. It was at 10,000 feet. And it was sometimes hard to breathe. The first time I played, I thought I was going to have 3 heart attacks because you walk the course. But it's wonderful to be involved with stuff like this, like 42, which is similar in the sense that you're telling us a true story about stuff and the struggles of people who are trying to do something great. And because of the color of their skin are denied.
Yeah, and I'll end with this. The Incredible Hulk. I remember bonding with it to my dad, dude. I remember your episode. I swear to God, I remember your episode.
Dan Yankees. It's really Dan Yankees is what it was. Kind of.
Tell me about we'll end with this. Tell me about that show and Bill Bixby. Whatever you want to say, Brett. Whatever.
The last thing I'll tell you about Bill Bixby, who was wonderful. He did 2 things to me. Taught me stuff, but. One day, it's a sad story. His son had just passed, and he was devastated. And so, if you notice in that show, I have a lot of the dialogue, as the guest star. Mm-hmm. And I went up to him one day and I said, "Do you want to run lines?" And he turned on me and he said, "If you want to run lines as a script supervisor, right over there. If you want to rehearse, I'm here for you." And I went, "Let's rehearse," because I was like, "Wow." But he told me a story. One of the last nights we were shooting on a Friday night at Universal, but we had to leave the studio to go shoot at a motel. And he said, "Come on, get my." He had one back then. They had those RVs that you drive. Like it's a camper, but there's actually a driver in there with you instead of the big trailers we have now. And so I get in there and he goes, "You want a beer?" And I'm like, "Oh." He goes, "We have one scene left. You can have one beer." And I went, "Okay, I'll have a beer." And he started talking to me and he said, "Listen," he said, "be in your mind, visualize what you want to see happen. Because when I came to Hollywood, I was in an acting class, and the teacher said, I want you to say your name, I want you to spell it, I want you to say it again, and tell me why you want to be an actor. And everyone got, my name's Susan Jones, and I really love the arts, and I want a beauty pageant, and blah blah blah. And he stood up and he goes, my name's Bill Bixby, Billbixby, Bill Bixby, and I'm here because I'm going to make more money than all the rest of you idiots. And he said, wow, I manifested that. He goes, I'm the king of television. Everything he ever did, even The Magician, ran 3 years, even though it wasn't considered a great series in his mind. But he was wonderful, and he was very giving, and really, I know it was the Incredible Hulk, but it was really a learning lesson for me to be around someone like that. Same thing when I worked with Barbara Stanwyck when I did the Thornbirds. I've been so fortunate to work with so many great actors and learn from.
Yeah.
Duvall, Jenna Rollins, and Something to Talk About, another movie I did with Dennis.
Yeah.
Just to be with that quality of talent and to watch them and to actually see their work ethic. Because a lot of young actors, I one day slapped the phone out of a girl's hand on a series I was on because she was doing off camera, but looking at her phone. And I slapped, and I said, what are you doing? She goes, you can't do that. And I said, don't ever bring a phone near me again if we're on camera. Don't do that.
But Brett, I heard that Chris Nolan bans phones. Can you imagine being on a phone on a Chris Nolan set? Like, there's not enough you could learn about. Like, that is insane to me. Why would you? I don't know. I guess that's
no. Chris is great, and I love Chris Nolan. I love Jonah Nolan, his brother, and I love Jonah's wife because I did a movie with her with Hugh Jackman. I'm trying to stay in that sphere because I think there's such wonderful talents and creators and directors and writers. The whole point of this whole world is to try and just keep growing and get better. I'm old and I keep working. I'm working more in the last 10 years than I have, before. I'm more in need, I guess, or that people want to hire me. And it's based on, I think, the fact that I still think I'm 23 years old and just got out of college and I still want to learn.
Yeah.
I want to be better.
And a very gifted actor. The movie is The Long Game. Very, very enjoyable sports movie that's about humanity as well. Brett, thank you for this time. And man, I love your career, and I'm been a fan the whole way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. You have a nice weekend.
You too. Have a great day. Thanks.